So, yep, recording in progress. Hello and welcome, everyone. Really happy to have you all. I will turn the camera around for a second so you can see everybody in the room. Let's see. Can you see?
A little more. Yeah, keep starting. Yes. Hello, everybody.
It's over there on the table.
Surma.
Surma's over there.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're all here, and just want to tell you a little bit how today's going to go. First of all, if I don't have your email address, please put it in the chat so you can get the emails. Second of all, I will put in the chat how to give a donation to Pali. She's doing some work with her eyes and
new eye treatments.
new eye treatments, and anything you can do to help would be wonderful. We're going to take Polly's going to do a guided meditation for maybe 7 minutes, like that.
Put on the timer.
That'll be followed by a short silent meditation. We're going to shorten that so we have more time for Q&A. Polly will talk a little bit, and then we'll go into Q&A. When we do Q&A, I'm going to ask that you click on the reaction button. I'll tell you again, click on the reaction button, put up your hand, then you'll show up so I can see you and can spotlight you for the call. All right, everybody good?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is the point at which I say, I wish I could see you all. I wish I could see all of you better, and but there's no separation, so it's not really a problem. Thank you all for showing up here in the room and on Zoom. So let's just take a couple of minutes here to come into that spaciousness that we all share. There's a sense of which we know traditionally the breath is the way that takes us home. And so with an inhale and a relaxing exhale, just allowing all of the energy of the day to fall away, going into that spacious awake awareness that is our true nature, our home. Another inhale, and using the breath to just fall out of your mind and into your heart. The heart is the designation of this awake awareness that is the one true nature. Coming home, we relax, relaxing the mind. We know ourselves as here, now. The experience of the spacious true nature is what we would call consciousness. It is out of which everything arises, and where we connect with reality in the most profound way, in the most generative, creative, happening, alive way. This spaciousness is scintillating with aliveness. It's effulgent within a sense of emergence and overflowing. It's like the tube torus with the energy of all that is arising and overflowing and showing up as our world, showing up as our own heart, showing up as our own true nature. So close, so present, so all that is this oneness. In this spaciousness, we have the qualities of our true nature, which is awakeness, which is freedom, the quality of love, the quality of happy, the quality of peace. All that arises here, and I am that. Tat Vam Asi, thou art that spacious awake awareness in which everything that is true, the one I am, the one you are that is true, is present here, available always. As the mind turns away from conditions, as the mind turns away from thoughts, and in that spaciousness that's created with the mind not online anymore, we fall into this spacious, true nature where everything arises. It's a, it's like a miracle, isn't it? It's like home. It's like the fullness of being. Living from this space, we find ourselves free and happy, not caught up in the projection of one problem after another, experiencing this space as always available, and that's where we show up being on our own behalf as free and happy and present, alive. The aliveness is the quality of our true nature. This space is always available whenever there seems to be a magnetizing of you into an external condition. Fall back, come back home to this spacious true nature. You are already that. I am that. That's what's true. And when we ignore that, we get magnetized into the conditions in an external world where everything looks like a problem because everything is mind-made. The mind gets its job from the lens of everything being a problem. But backing out of that place, coming home to our true nature, to this expansive, awake awareness, there are no problems here. And from this space, we simply do what's in front of us to do. We handle whatever shows up in what looks like an external world, but which is not external to anything. It's the extension, the expansion, the projection of our own mind. And when that mind is clear, because we identify with our true nature, then the reality clarifies. The reality is enlightened. The reality is arising as a new world, a new life, a new possibility. So as we do this work together, those of us who are here, we create the possibility for redreaming the world. And that's what this suffering world needs now, is a vision from true nature on behalf of love, on behalf of connection, on behalf of a new world. And we are that, and we can do that. And we are in connection and harmony and alignment. And when two or more are gathered in the name of love, in the name of possibility, in the name of aliveness, then that's where the power of the frequency shifts realities. And so resting just for a few minutes in this spacious awake awareness, we gather together here. And so it is. Don't we love altered states? So what's possible to redream a world that's peaceful and loving and kind and alive with fun and energy? The way we know it as possible is when we find it in ourselves. Finding that space that we just visited of awake awareness, that spacious consciousness out of which everything is created, including the projections that are created by fear. It confiscates consciousness on behalf of a fear-based identity, on behalf of worry and concern. And so it's our job to reclaim that attention, reclaim that belief, that error in thinking. Maybe thinking is the error. The idea that there's something wrong out there, that has an origin point out there, that is caused out there. The amazing thing is that we have access to always what is caused in the matter of our experience, what is in fact caused in the matter of the apparent external reality. And so with that access, which is what we just experienced together, connecting to that conscious awake awareness that is the source of everything, that's how we make a difference. That's what we do to redream the world. And in the meantime, we can do all the things that we do, all the projects that we have, all the love of this 3D reality that we can express and appreciation. But its cause in the matter is who you're being. And at cause in the matter of your experience is who you're being to yourself. And at the heart of that is what I've called for many years now, the core self-concept, which is based on a conclusion that we sometimes call the wounded child. And so we have access to what's been causing the projection that when we look out there, looks like it's one problem after another, because when we created a conclusion about ourselves, what got put in place was a lens through which consciousness projects and creates a distortion field. And so we're dealing with things that are projections of our own lack of self-care, our own lack of self-regard, our own lack of self-love. So the correction is very easy. It's very personal. It's very present here. The reason that I shouldn't have said easy.
Thank you.
Just one correction there. The reason it's so daunting is because we created it. You know, it's like we may have an ugly baby, but it's ours. It's like, see my baby? This is my cute baby. When in fact, we're all those wounded babies. We're all those wounded children projecting realities, just noticing the power of how powerful you are to project a shitty reality, right? And you'll notice that it could be different if your lens changes. And so what we're in the business of doing is discreating what is the distortion in the lens, to seeing through. And in the seeing of that, it's already not as potent as it was. And as we release any belief in that identity, which would be something like, I don't matter, I'm not good enough, or all of the things we know, all of us by rote. So as we cleanse that lens, it's like William Blake said, you cleanse the doors of perception, he said, and then you see, or Jesus said, when you see through a glass darkly, but now face to face. And so now we see face to face with the love, the power, the reality of what's true, but only after we've cleansed the lens of the distortion field. We have access to that. You know, the access that you have, the notice that you're having, as one spiritual teacher says, When you get the invitation to be triggered or to be reactive, remind yourself that you know what that is. You know what causes it. You know why it comes up for you. And because what you're experiencing in what we would call the external reality is a projection of the woundedness. So it's like everybody lines up to trigger you. And that's the good news. It's like I always say you send an order into central casting, right? It's like, but that's the access. So when we know that that's happening, we know that that is not the one I am that we just experienced as awake awareness. That is who I am. That's what's true. And the expressions of that, freed of the distortion, are creativity and loving lives and happy people and freedom and peacefulness, right? With the distortion lens in place, because that applies to our body. Our body mind is a part of the external reality also. Our body mind arises in the awake awareness that we are. So it's going to take the hit of the woundedness, just like our reality does. It's seen and experienced through the distortion field of I'm not good enough, or I'm a piece of shit, or I don't matter, whatever it is. And so the body has been taking the hit all along. And then we wonder why we get to be, well, not as old as I am, but older. And we get fatigued and we get tired and we have difficulties because the body's been taking the hit of our self-hate, a low frequency of fear. Hate, everything except love is a frequency of fear. And so we've imbued this reality that way. And then we see it because it's created out of duality. And we see it as having a good end of the stick and a bad end of the stick. And we get caught on the stick, always efforting or trying to get to the good end of the stick. Where you pick up the stick, you got both ends. Einstein said there's no solution for the problem at the level the problem was created. And that polarity is the level at which all problems are created. So the access is, sometimes you're at the good end. You want the good end all the time, but you're feeling that lurking bad end. It's like a shadow side coming up, and then it tilts. Now you've just got the health problem or the money problem or the relationship problem. but you've got the stick, you're going to have it. When we drop the stick, we go meta. We go to the apex of that triangle, the stick being the baseline. At the apex, the point of the triangle, we are free into the fullness of true nature. We're freed out of the duality, out of the polarity that insists that everything is a problem that has to be solved. From the perspective of the apex, it's just what's happening. Now, when you're caught on the stick, it feels like it's happening to you. And that's what we're always in resistance to. What happens as we lift ourselves above, energetically identified as awake awareness, we lift ourselves above the mind, which is insisting on the polarity, we start to see the movie as just what's happening. Now that relieves suffering when it was happening to you because you're on the stick trying to get the good end and believing that there are all kinds of problems that keep you from getting the good end of the stick. When you're caught there, then you're caught in fear. And that's the creation that you see. That's still in the distortion field. As we are in our true nature as awake awareness, what we're perceiving is life is happening. You can use the analogy of it being a movie, but what's going on is just what's happening. There's no longer a me that was created out of a wounding identity conclusion. I'm a piece of shit. I don't matter. I'm not good enough. When that's the lens, then it always looks like it's happening to you and it's about you. When that lens falls away, because we are acknowledging now what's truer for us than that woundedness is the one I am. When that lens falls away, then our ability to do what's in front of us to do without suffering, without feeling like something's against me, without experiencing the reality as if I'm the victim of it. So this is the shift in consciousness that people talk about, waking up or even enlightenment or whatever, but it's very available. I believe that it's available now because of the consciousness technology that's going on with people like us, and also with the technology itself, like this availability of connection over many miles. with many, many different people. So this technology is reflecting what's happening in consciousness. As we relieve ourselves of this limiting, fear-based conclusion about ourselves, we'll be living in a new world. That's the new world that we want to create, and that's the new world that you begin to experience to the degree that you've eliminated, seen through, no longer identified with your wounded child. So the possibility right here, right now, for all of us, and this is true around the planet, is to wake up out of the illusion of a fear-based projection that's created a hell realm of this world. We came here, I always say to all the people that I love, we had a date, we kept our date, we're here, and we're doing this work. We're no longer willing to be caught in a pathetic ego identity that's caused from fear of something a child suffered at a year old or 6 months old or prenatally or karmically. We no longer have to identify with that. We are free to say, I know what that is, and I am this. I am the awake awareness in which that and everything else arises. I identify with my true nature, not with the limitation of a bot that's running around looking like me. Yeah. So this is the challenge. This is the altar call. This is the opportunity to become witness to the wound, become witness to what's happening in the world, but know yourself as a space in which that is arising. You can't have more access than that. You are the space in which every reality that you think of as out there is actually arising in the awake awareness, in the consciousness that you are. I am that. Does this make sense to everybody? Even a little bit? Maybe. Yeah. Yes. Great. Yeah. So I think last week Thad had a question. When we do the meditation with that awake awareness, that spaciousness, and I think I often say, in this spaciousness we are all the same, and the same in the way that we experience love and connection, and happy and free. Yeah. Is there something wrong?
No, I'm just, don't worry about me.
Don't worry about me. And that asks the question, in that regard, does that mean everything is uniform? Everything's the same? I think that's what you asked, isn't it, Thad?
You have to unmute, Thad.
First, yeah, my feeling in the meditation was that there was a kind of uniformity between everyone, like that the meditative state we were all in was the same, and that feeling of an individual ego identity falling away. And the unity, I guess I was starting to think almost like a pun. It was like the unity felt like uniformity. You see what I'm saying? Like the same, the one is the same. That was the kind of play that was occurring to me. And it's funny because when I was younger and I would read about spiritual aspirations, the idea of being the same or sharing a kind of collective consciousness was unappealing to me, because I was more attached to my uniqueness and my individuality. And now that I've suffered at the hands of that for so long, it's such a relief to have that fall away. And then to just be in what seemed truly like a kind of consciousness that is all the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the consciousness is the same, but the experience and the quality, it's like we know that consciousness is the container, it doesn't make any sense, but it's the where everything is experienced, but there are 10,000 things, but the quality of the awake awareness has all of the experience of the whole range of love or freedom, or all the qualities that we know that it consists of. And everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different, but there is a fundamental piece of the consciousness without an object, consciousness as that awake awareness. And it becomes more cosmically experienced as all of the ego parts fall away. And in that experience, I am that is the statement. And that's what's true. But thank you for sharing that, sweetie. Thank you.
So Polly, Sequoia has a question, and I'm checking with Elizabeth if she still has a question. So Sequoia, you can go ahead and mute yourself.
Hi, Polly. This is Sequoia.
Hi, Sequoia.
So I was on last week also, and had shared with Robin a few days before that I've made some very specific conscious choices in my life recently to move back home to enjoy my parents. They're in their 70s and I'm in my 50s, and I'm finding that it's my family home. So there's a lot of emotion and a lot of like energetic sludge that I feel. I do a similar practice to what you've described, like get in tune with, what I would call the crucible event for the trigger or the emotion, and to just really see it from a variety of different facets or views. And I can see it, and I can see, why I would be feeling this reminded vibration of my childhood. But I don't really know what to do with it. I don't really know what to do after that point, and how to, I know I have a knowing that it needs to process its way through my system. But it tends to pull on me.
Right. So some people, I think you may have overheard them mention, or I have mentioned, a protocol that I use called the 6 Steps to Freedom.
Yes.
And it addresses exactly what you're talking about. Do you have a copy of that, Sequoia?
I don't. And I heard you talk about it last week, and
Okay.
I feel like I do something similar, but I don't know if there's like
Right.
parts to clear it out that I'm not doing.
Right. Yeah, so to go over them, because what'll happen as you practice these 6 steps is that you'll tend to collapse them. But at the first, like anything else that you're practicing, it needs to be specific. So the first step is I'm upset, or I'm triggered. The second step is it's about me. I have the upset, whatever the conditions are, whatever it looks like the issue is, it's about me. The third step is to name the feeling. And I suspect that that's what you're good at in this crucible model that you shared, that you can go into that and feel the feelings that occurred. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you do that part, if you then excuse me, name the feeling, get in touch with what the feeling is, so that gives you like a handle on the next step, which is just through free association. What's the earlier time I experienced that same feeling? And you can use the word, and it may clarify for you at that point. You may have a memory of, sometimes I use the metaphor, the analogy of being left at kindergarten and picked up late and feeling like you were all alone and mommy didn't care and you weren't important and the teacher's mad at me, and all of the feeling gestalt of that event, out of which what precipitates out of that experience is a conclusion about oneself. And that creates, and this is just a compilation, this is a collapsing of this information, but that creates the distortion in the lens through which your consciousness projects and then shows up as many, many times in your experience, a similar kind of thing happens, or at least your feeling sense is very similar. In other words, you're triggered into the same early conclusion of I'm not good enough, or I don't matter, I'm not important. After that, and you've seen what that is that you concluded, which is the 5th step, the 6th step and the 6 steps to freedom is I forgive myself for ever having believed that I'm not good enough or I'm unimportant. And the process of that, instead of a therapeutic model, which tends to want to work more and more at the level of the problem,
Right.
this is what I consider to be alchemy of consciousness, the alchemy of allowing through forgiveness that whole thing to dissolve, to see it at least somewhat differently, because the childhood wound shows up in so many ways and in so many different relationships and life arenas. You'll be going back here often probably, but the caveat is not to try to avoid being triggered, but to know that when you are triggered, you have access to something that's been running the show, and that if you can see it, just in the process of seeing it and naming it, it shifts its power. It's not nearly so potent or so powerful in your experience anymore than it was when it was totally repressed and then projected. So forgiveness, I forgive myself for ever having believed I'm not important. I know who I am. I am the awake awareness in which realities arise. I am the conscious space in which my world arises. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is helpful.
Yeah.
I experience the sensation of having emotion that won't clear though. Like I do that, and then I still have a block in my throat with emotion that won't clear.
Yeah, and if you can
That is.
allow that, yeah, go ahead.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what to do with it.
Right. Well, one of the things you can do just in the way we do normal psychotherapy is to allow it to be there and then just internally ask the question, what is this about? What is this? Because it's going to be about something that may surface with that inquiry. Asking the question opens the field in which you can, instead of resisting it, which we tend to do, even when we're knowing we don't want to resist something. If we don't want it, if we don't want to experience it, there's a neurological resistance to it. So it's like coming home to that, welcoming that, allowing that, and even if it doesn't show up as what is causing it, it will start to dissipate because it's no longer resisted.
Yeah, I've been resisting my emotions since I was little.
That's right. Yeah. So now it's time to welcome all of them. Bring those kids home. It's like, here they come. Oh my God, they're so dirty. They're so raggedy. Oh, but you welcome them all. Everything. Come on down. Yeah. Yeah. That's the kindness to yourself. That's the kindness to yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart.
So Elizabeth has a question.
Unmuted. Hi.
Yeah.
Is that working?
Hi.
Yeah, we got you.
Hi, sweetie.
Lauren. This sort of falls into the tips and tricks category. You know me, I'm always in a big hurry to get the job done. Just a practice that you like or that you might suggest in this moment around reminding me or any of us to just come back into the moment. So the meditation obviously offers that, right? So as I had dropped in, I thought, now, why don't I remember to do this more often, right? So that's where the question comes from. It's like, do you have something that I don't know, that comes to you to share about just catching oneself, and then bringing oneself, back?
Right. Well, the reason that's a high bar is because we're so accustomed to suffering, right? Because when we're not accustomed to suffering, if we begin to suffer a little bit, that'll get our attention, and we come into this present moment and tell ourselves the truth about what's going on. But that's the ticket in a way. It's like if you're experiencing something that doesn't feel good, as soon as you can, remind yourself that you know where that's coming from, that it's a part of a projection through a distortion lens. And then in that reminder, hopefully you'll go to the inner space just on a breath. You're right there. It's like you close your eyes, this reality's gone, and you're back in, right? You're in that awake awareness out of which everything emerges. It's alive, and that's what you want to experience. And with the that's like an early warning signal, the little irritation or the suffering or the little anger or whatever it is, that you're caught up in the distortion field. You've been caught up out there instead of being back here where his source is. You're magnetized into it, and it doesn't feel good. So the alert is, if something doesn't feel good, you know where to go. And sometimes you have to feel not good for a while.
And
Did
then
that answer?
reminding, yeah, it's just occurring to me how compelling the problems are. I mean, it's just so compelling that, we think there's a solution to the suffering. We think within the suffering there'll be a solution, and it's just never true. So
No, it's not true.
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's to create the perspective of what's actually happening. There's something happening out there. As if it's about me, then that's where the suffering is. Otherwise, it's either what's in front of me to do or not do. It's whatever is going on. It's just what's going on. But the minute and in any experience when the me is not the main character, there is no suffering. Suffering only occurs to the me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Anybody here got any burning questions?
Well, I guess I have one. That feeling, as you say, that when me was not the biggest person and playing the role was not suffering. I'm going through a little challenge right now. Is one young boy from Brazil that me and Robert was supporting him, been supporting for several years. He's 12 years old.
Hmm.
And he's trying to cut himself yesterday and trying to kill himself. And it's that fear, like, I don't know if it's fear or feeling of I can't do anything. It's that imminent fear that something happened and I can't do anything to avoid. It's being like, so do you have anything to say about that? How to deal with this kind of situation?
Yeah, right. It might be what we call prayer, but it's going inward and connecting in love, because you absolutely have connection to that child, to that boy, and blessing him in that inner space, and trusting that there's a much bigger picture here that you're not privy to, that whatever it looks as if it's happening, whatever it looks, and the most dire things, and they look so, they create such pain in us, because the heart pain of seeing any child or anybody suffer. But the reality is that from a perspective, as we rise up a little bit and allow that, then something may occur to us to do. When we're caught up in the frequency of the emotional reaction, which is going to happen in this kind of situation, but freeing ourselves of that, it's as if things that couldn't occur to us can show up. Maybe a call to somebody, or maybe just a prayer of connection with him, but trusting the bigger picture. It's not like we are so caught in our identification with the body that we believe that's the whole story. It's such a pathetic little nothing of the whole story. And that's what we realize in that spacious awake awareness, where the body mind arises and where all of the body minds arise, but none of us are that, right? And so your connection with him is really powerful, and you can trust whatever outcome there is, even though it might be difficult. It's a high bar for sure, because our human mind wants to solve it, wants to protect, wants to make things okay for whomever we're responsible for and love. But that's not always. In the bigger picture, the truth is all is well. And that's like I said, a high bar. Yeah. So we're right now together, we can just hold that spaciousness for that little guy and wish him well, whatever outcome it looks like. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Maureen has her hand up.
Hi, Pali. I just
Hi.
wondered, I'm doing your work every day. I told you I'm listening to that one video that I love so much, Consciousness as Cause, on YouTube. And I just need to listen to it every day to really get this. And I'm reading the book, Choose Again, and I'm just loving it. My life is really changing, and meeting with you, and I'm just so grateful. Thank you. I did want to ask you about dreams, because my dreams have been so good lately. I've been visiting with my mother, who's passed away, and my old boyfriend, who's passed away. I mean, they've been in my dreams. And in the last dream, my mother and my boyfriend were in the same place, and I wanted them to meet. So I called my mom to meet him, and he said, and it felt like they knew each other, like really well. And it surprised me. And he said, "Oh, I opened the door for your mother." And I felt like he opened the door to come into my consciousness or in my dream or something. I just wondered how you feel about dreams, especially as we're awakening.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've often said I've for a long time considered that the reason we dream is to show us that this is a dream also. What we call our awake life is also the same as a dream, in the sense that it's all created out of our consciousness. And so I think a nighttime dream is a really good way to start to experience the way we can be in our world, so the realization that if this is a dream and something's happening, then I can be in a different relationship to it than if it was actually 3D materiality. In other words, it's like acknowledging that this is a projection of sorts and seeing how helpful it is to, like, for some people, becoming lucid in the nighttime dream is a shift in consciousness that they bring into their waking time with them. Yeah, so I think that nighttime dreams are really helpful in understanding that in that bed alone, we create mom and boyfriend on the other side and a whole scenario. And that's what we're doing in what we call awake time. So I think it's great that you're having good dreams, and they're always, I believe that they're as real as this, actually. Does that help?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy your dreams.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow, I even have good dreams now. This is amazing. So
Thank you, Maureen.
thank you.
We have about 5 more minutes. If anybody in here or in the chat, in the Zoom has a question.
or if there's any topic that occurs to you that I might be helpful in us looking at it together. Maybe not a question, but just a topic, a concern. Yeah, who's that? Grace. Grace, hi Grace.
I just recently heard Ram Dass say something about the environment that really has highlighted right now. Focus. We don't really realize how much we create, much is going on right now out of what we created along the way. And now to not be surprised, shocked at what we see right now, because this is my creation, and not to feel subconscious or guilty about it or anything, but this is what was created so that at this very moment, I would be facing this. Any comments you'd like to make?
Repeat that. Yeah, Grace was just asking a question about karma and what been we've been contributing along the way that now it's showing up like this, whatever this is. Yeah, so I believe that what's showing up for most of us now was it's the language is so not good enough. It's of the results of what we've been emitting in the past. It's like, you know, I think there's a quote in maybe the Bible where it talks about casting your bread upon the waters, and then they come back at some point, right? They're out there. It's like we've been engaged in all kinds of energetic contributions to the quantum field. And then as they come back, as we get more and present and know our true nature as awake awareness, it's right here, right now. We are living in the present moment. And so the karma is gone. So one of the good reasons, the reason that we have karma is because we are caught in a timeline that's mind created, that has fear for the future and regret about a past. So now coming home to ourselves, we are dealing with whatever we've been emitting energetically for 30 years or whatever, sometimes in the body, sometimes in the world. And in that moment, we have to stay true north in authenticity and clarity on our own behalf. And that's what starts to clear up. You can only be true north and on your own behalf if you know who you are. If you've shifted out of a fear-based identity and into awake awareness. And that's what all of you are doing, and have a more than a toehold in that already. And it can open up in many moments. And when it does, you're in this present moment in real time, what we would call real time, present moment. This is it. And there's a quote in the Bible that says the days are shortened for the sake of the elect. Well, we elect ourselves when we wake up out of the illusion of being a fear-based person. We elect ourselves, and then the days are shortened can be understood as this is the present moment is the time, right here, right now. That's the whole story. And so it's in this, the interaction is real time, as I say, but no time actually. So I do believe we're dealing with past projections into the quantum field for sure, past lives, past this life, different decades of this life. And that's why when stuff is showing up and we know that it's from the past, or we know that it's from the woundedness, then we have the chance to say, this is what's happening, and know ourselves as apart from it, not being had by it or subject to it. And so we have a different dynamic with it. And the possibility is for us to handle things from a much greater place of clarity than if it's happening to us and it's against us. So the karma falls away in present moment living. Yeah.
Thank you, Polly.
Yes.
So we're at the top of the hour. We're gonna pause here and go into 45 minutes of silent meditation. If you'd like to leave now, this would be the time. On video, you can leave as you like, but we are going to go in this deep dive, which is pretty amazing. I find these meditations are really reorganizing, and things drop away. That present moment kind of shows up when we're all together doing this. So I invite you to stay. Again, if I don't have your email, please put it in the chat. If you'd like to give a donation to Polly, please, I've got that in the chat and also in the email.
Thank you all for coming. Let's go home together. What is your boy's name?
David.
David. Good night, everyone. Good night. Good day. Is that